You're looking at a photograph from December 1884, taken in the parlor of the Whitmore estate in Millbrook County. Four brothers stand in formal dress behind their seated parents, hands clasped, expressions solemn as daggers. The Carter family had commissioned this portrait to commemorate their father's appointment as district magistrate. What you cannot see in this moment is that when the photograph was developed 3 days later, something had changed. The second son from the left, Edmund Carter, age 19, appears to have moved slightly between the exposure and the print. His left shoulder sits a full inch lower than his right, his collar askew, his mouth curved into what witnesses described as an impossibly wide smile. The family's photographer, Mr. Cornelius Ashford, swore on his mother's grave that no one had moved during the second exposure. He had been photographing families for 12 years and had never encountered such an impossibility. The wet plate collodion process left no room for error or manipulation. Yet there Edmund stood, grinning in a photograph where everyone else maintained perfect stillness. Dr. Helena Blackwood, the county's only physician trained in nervous disorders, examined the image under magnification. She noted that Edmund's pupils appeared dilated far beyond what the parlor's gaslighting would require. His skin held a waxy quality that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. The family requested a second sitting immediately, but Edmund had fallen gravely ill that same evening. He would never pose for another photograph. By January of 1885, 3 separate photography experts had declared the image an impossibility of science and nature. The Carter family sealed the photograph in their private collection, refusing all requests for examination. What they discovered in the weeks that followed would challenge everything they believed about the permanence of death. Edmund's condition deteriorated rapidly, marked by violent episodes where he spoke in voices not his own. He claimed to see his own reflection moving independently in mirrors throughout the house. The family physician, Dr. Mortimer Gaines, documented symptoms that defied medical understanding. Edmund's body temperature fluctuated between fevered heat and cadaverous cold within minutes. His pulse would cease entirely for stretches lasting up to 30 seconds, yet he remained conscious and alert. On the night of January 15, 1885, Edmund Carter died in his sleep. The next morning, when his mother went to collect his personal effects, she found his bedroom window standing wide open. The photograph, locked away in her husband's study, showed Edmund's figure had moved again. This time, his hand rested on his youngest brother's shoulder. None of the other figures had shifted by so much as a hair's breadth. The family would never speak publicly of what they had witnessed. But the photograph remains, archived in the Millbrook Historical Society's restricted collection. And Edmund Carter, according to multiple documented accounts, continues to move. What you're about to discover will challenge everything you thought you knew about the boundaries between life and death. The winter of 1884 brought unprecedented cold to Millbrook County, with temperatures plummeting to 20 degrees below zero. The newly constructed railroad had transformed the region from isolated farmland into a bustling hub of commerce and industry. Gas lighting had recently been installed in the homes of prominent families, replacing the flickering uncertainty of oil lamps. Photography studios were becoming fashionable among the wealthy, who saw portraits sitting as both art and social necessity. The Carter family had risen to prominence through their lumber mills and political connections. Magistrate William Carter commanded respect throughout the county for his stern adherence to justice and Presbyterian values. His wife, Margaret, maintained the family's social standing through careful cultivation of relationships with other established families. Their 4 sons were expected to carry forward the family name with honor and distinction. The parish records of St. Bartholomew's Episcopal Church document the Carter family's regular attendance and substantial donations. Reverend Thomas Whitfield noted in his personal journal that the family appeared blessed by providence and united in purpose. The Millbrook County Ledger frequently featured articles praising William Carter's fair handling of legal disputes. Yet beneath this veneer of respectability, troubling patterns had begun to emerge. Dr. Mortimer Gaines, the family physician, had been summoned to the Carter estate 17 times between October and December of 1884. His private medical notes, discovered in 1923 during the renovation of his former practice, reveal a disturbing trend. Each visit concerned Edmund Carter's increasingly erratic behavior and mysterious ailments. The young man complained of hearing voices calling his name from empty rooms. He reported seeing his own reflection behaving independently of his movements. Sleep became elusive, replaced by night terrors where he claimed to witness his own funeral repeatedly. Dr. Gaines prescribed laudanum and bed rest, but Edmund's condition only worsened. The physician noted that Edmund's symptoms bore no resemblance to any recognized nervous disorder or physical malady. Blood samples appeared normal under microscopic examination, yet Edmund insisted he felt something foreign moving through his veins. By December, the family had consulted 3 additional physicians, each reaching the same baffled conclusion. Edmund Carter was physically healthy, yet psychologically deteriorating in ways that defied medical explanation. The decision to commission the family portrait was Margaret Carter's attempt to preserve a moment of normalcy. She hoped that the formal ritual of photography might restore Edmund's connection to his family and reality. The sitting was scheduled for December 18, 1884, at precisely 2 o'clock in the afternoon. Mr. Cornelius Ashford arrived with his equipment at 1:30, allowing ample time for preparation. The weather was clear, providing optimal natural light through the parlor's tall windows. Nothing in the day's circumstances suggested the impossibility that would soon unfold. Yet by evening, the Carter family would face evidence that some boundaries cannot be maintained by human will alone. The photograph would become the first documented proof of what experts would later classify as temporal displacement phenomenon. What happened in that parlor would fundamentally alter the scientific understanding of life, death, and the space between them. Mr. Cornelius Ashford had established his photography studio in Millbrook 3 years prior, after training under the renowned portraitist Master James Whitcomb in Boston. His reputation for technical precision and artistic composition attracted the county's most distinguished families. The wet plate collodion process he employed required absolute stillness from subjects during the 8-second exposure time. Ashford prided himself on achieving perfect clarity in every image, with not a single case of motion blur in his professional career. His equipment included a Thornton Pickard Imperial camera with a Dallmeyer lens, considered the finest available technology of the era. The glass plates were prepared fresh each morning using a solution of collodion, potassium iodide, and potassium bromide. Development occurred immediately after exposure, leaving no opportunity for manipulation or alteration of the image. On December 18th, Ashford arrived at the Carter estate carrying his camera, tripod, glass plates, and chemical solutions. The temperature outside registered 14 degrees Fahrenheit, with clear skies and bright winter sunlight streaming through the parlor windows. He positioned the family according to established portrait conventions, parents seated, children standing in order of age. William and Margaret Carter occupied matching mahogany chairs positioned at precise angles to catch the light. The 4 sons arranged themselves behind their parents, with Edmund second from the left beside his elder brother Jonathan. Ashford spent 23 minutes adjusting the composition, ensuring each face would be clearly illuminated and sharply focused. The exposure began at exactly 2:17 in the afternoon, with Ashford counting aloud to maintain the family stillness. Every member of the Carter family remained motionless for the full 8 seconds, according to both Ashford's observation and their own testimony. Yet when the plate was developed in Ashford's studio 3 hours later, Edmund's position had shifted noticeably. His left shoulder dropped below the level of his right, creating an asymmetrical posture that violated the formal arrangement. His facial expression had transformed from solemn dignity into what Ashford described as a grin of unsettling width and intensity. The photographer immediately suspected a flaw in his equipment or technique, but careful examination revealed no mechanical defects. The other 5 family members appeared exactly as positioned, with perfect clarity and no evidence of movement. Only Edmund Carter had somehow altered his pose between the moment of exposure and the development of the image. Ashford contacted his former mentor, Master Whitcomb, requesting guidance on this unprecedented occurrence. Whitcomb's response, delivered by telegraph on December 22nd, offered no explanation but urged immediate documentation of all circumstances. The photographic community in Boston had heard whispered accounts of similar impossibilities, though none had been properly verified. Ashford prepared a detailed written account of the session, including weather conditions, equipment specifications, and timing. He submitted this report to the American Journal of Photographic Sciences, along with a carefully made copy of the Carter portrait. The journal's editor, Professor Harrison Blackstone of Harvard College, published the account in March 1885 under the heading Anomalous Image Displacement. Within weeks, Ashford received inquiries from photographers across New England reporting similar unexplained phenomena. Each case involved a single subject appearing to move within an otherwise perfectly still photographic composition. The subjects shared certain characteristics. All were young men between the ages of 16 and 25. All had recently experienced periods of illness or psychological distress. Most disturbing of all, in every documented case, the affected subject died within 6 months of the anomalous photograph. The Carter portrait would become the cornerstone of a collection that photography experts hoped would never need to exist. Professor Marcus Aldrich of the New England Institute of Optics received the Carter photograph on January 8, 1885, along with Ashford's detailed documentation. As the region's leading authority on photographic science and optical phenomena, Aldrich had examined hundreds of allegedly supernatural images. In every previous case, he had identified rational explanations, double exposures, chemical contamination, or simple human error. The Carter portrait presented no such obvious flaws, forcing Aldrich to employ increasingly sophisticated methods of analysis. Under magnification of 40 times normal size, Edmund Carter's altered position became even more pronounced and disturbing. The grain structure of the photographic emulsion showed no signs of manipulation, overlay, or chemical interference. Spectroscopic analysis of the light values confirmed that all figures had been illuminated by the same source at the same moment. Yet Edmund's image contained subtle variations in shadow depth and highlight distribution that suggested movement during exposure. Aldrich documented his findings in a sealed report submitted to the Massachusetts Institute of Technology's Department of Natural Philosophy. His conclusion challenged the fundamental principles of photographic science. The image appeared genuine, yet depicted an impossible event. Dr. Catherine Morehouse, the county's newly appointed alienist, examined Edmund Carter personally on January 12, 1885. Trained in the latest European methods of psychological assessment, she sought to correlate Edmund's mental state with a photographic anomaly. Her notes describe a young man caught between rational awareness and inexplicable compulsions. Edmund spoke coherently about his daily activities, yet insisted that his reflection had begun acting independently of his movements. He claimed to witness conversations between himself and his mirror image, discussions he could hear but not control. Physical examination revealed no neurological abnormalities, though Edmund's pupils remained persistently dilated regardless of lighting conditions. His pulse exhibited irregular patterns that Dr. Morehouse had never encountered in her medical training. Most significantly, Edmund demonstrated an uncanny ability to predict events moments before they occurred. He would turn toward doors seconds before visitors knocked, respond to questions before they were fully asked. Dr. Morehouse theorized that Edmund might be experiencing temporal displacement, existing slightly ahead of normal chronological flow. This hypothesis could explain both his prescient behavior and his apparent movement within the static photograph. She documented 17 specific instances of Edmund's temporal displacement during their 90-minute consultation. Each episode lasted between 3 and 7 seconds, during which Edmund seemed to inhabit a different moment entirely. The alienist report, filed with the county medical board, recommended immediate isolation and continuous observation. She warned that Edmund's condition appeared to be progressing rapidly toward an unknown but potentially dangerous conclusion. The Carter family rejected Dr. Morehouse's recommendations, choosing instead to keep Edmund confined to his bedroom under private care. They hired a nurse, Miss Sarah Whitlock, to monitor his condition and document any further developments. Miss Whitlock's diary, discovered in 1934 among her personal effects, provides the most detailed account of Edmund's final weeks. She recorded his increasingly frequent episodes of temporal displacement, noting that they often coincided with disturbances in the house's gas lighting. Flames would flicker without drafts. Mirrors would reflect empty rooms despite occupied spaces, and Edmund would speak to invisible companions. On the night of January 14th, Miss Whitlock observed Edmund standing before his bedroom mirror for over an hour. He appeared to be engaged in an animated conversation with his reflection, which seemed to respond independently. The reflection's mouth moved in patterns that did not match Edmund's speech, creating an impossible dialogue between identical faces. What Miss Whitlock witnessed that night would become the final piece of evidence in a case that defied every known law of nature. Miss Sarah Whitlock's final diary entry, dated January 14, 1885, describes events that challenge her Methodist faith and scientific training. At precisely 11:47 that evening, she observed Edmund engaged in heated conversation with his mirror reflection. The reflection's lips moved independently, forming words that bore no relationship to Edmund's speech patterns. She noted that Edmund's side of the conversation consisted of pleading and desperate bargaining. The reflection appeared to be making demands, its expression growing increasingly stern and authoritative. Edmund repeatedly shook his head and stepped backward from the mirror, but the reflection remained stationary. At midnight exactly, Edmund suddenly ceased speaking and turned toward his bedroom door. He walked with mechanical precision to his bed and lay down fully clothed atop the coverlet. Miss Whitlock approached to check his condition and found his skin cold as winter stone. His pulse had stopped completely, yet his eyes remained open and aware. When she spoke his name, Edmund turned his head toward her with fluid, unnatural movement. His mouth opened, but the voice that emerged belonged to someone else entirely. "He has gone where I came from," the voice said in Edmund's throat. "The exchange is complete, and I shall wear his form among the living." Miss Whitlock fled the room and summoned Dr. Gaines immediately. By the time the physician arrived at 12:43 a.m., Edmund Carter had died. His body showed no signs of struggle or distress, appearing simply to have ceased functioning. The bedroom mirror had developed a crack running diagonally from corner to corner. When dawn broke on January 15th, the household staff discovered Edmund's bedroom window standing wide open. Fresh snow had blown across the windowsill and floor, though no footprints marked the pristine white surface. The family gathered to examine the mysterious photograph once more. Edmund's figure had moved again during the night, his hand now resting on his youngest brother's shoulder. His smile had widened further, revealing teeth that seemed too numerous and too sharp. Most disturbing of all, his eyes now appeared to be looking directly at the viewer. No matter what angle the photograph was held, Edmund's gaze followed with uncomfortable intensity. The Carter family sealed the portrait in a lead-lined box and locked it away in their basement vault. They forbade any mention of Edmund's name within the household and removed all traces of his existence. Official records were altered to reflect only 3 Carter sons, erasing Edmund from family genealogy. Yet servants reported that mirrors throughout the house continued to reflect a 4th figure among the brothers. And on certain nights, when gas flames flickered without cause, Edmund's laughter echoed through empty corridors. The photograph remained locked away, but Edmund Carter had found other ways to manifest among the living. What the Carter family learned too late was that some doors, once opened, can never be closed again. Dr. Helena Blackwood received an urgent summons to examine the Carter estate on February 3, 1885. The family's youngest son, Thomas, had begun exhibiting symptoms identical to those that preceded Edmund's death. Thomas complained of hearing his deceased brother's voice calling from mirrors throughout the house. He reported seeing Edmund's reflection standing behind him in every reflective surface. Dr. Blackwood's examination revealed the same dilated pupils and irregular pulse patterns that had marked Edmund's final weeks. Most alarming, Thomas demonstrated the same temporal displacement abilities, responding to events before they occurred. The physician noted that Thomas's episodes of prescience coincided with disturbances in the house's electrical systems. Gas flames would dim when Thomas entered a room, returning to normal brightness only after he departed. Mirrors developed hairline cracks when Thomas stood before them for extended periods. The family's other two sons, Jonathan and Samuel, began avoiding their youngest brother entirely. They claimed Thomas's presence made them feel as though invisible eyes were watching from every corner. Margaret Carter hired 3 additional nurses to monitor Thomas around the clock. Each nurse resigned within a week, citing an overwhelming sense of dread that intensified after sunset. The last nurse, Mrs. Dorothy Fleming, documented her experiences in a letter to her sister. She described Thomas speaking to empty air in a voice that alternated between his own and Edmund's distinctive tone. The conversations appeared to be negotiations, with Thomas pleading for more time and Edmund insisting on immediate compliance. Mrs. Fleming observed that Thomas's reflection often remained visible in mirrors for several seconds after he left the room. On February 18th, Thomas Carter was found dead in his bed, his body bearing the same inexplicable coldness that had marked Edmund's passing. The family photograph, still locked in its lead, lined container, showed both deceased brothers standing together. Edmund's hand remained on Thomas's shoulder, while Thomas's hand now reached toward their surviving brother Samuel. The crack in Edmund's bedroom mirror had spread to every reflective surface in the house. Servants reported seeing multiple figures moving within the fractured glass, though only 2 brothers had died. Dr. Blackwood submitted her findings to the Massachusetts Medical Board with a recommendation for immediate investigation. The board's response, dated March 2, 1885, dismissed her report as the product of feminine hysteria and rural superstition. No official investigation was conducted, and the Carter family's requests for help were quietly ignored. William Carter resigned his position as magistrate and moved his surviving family to Boston. The Whitmore estate was abandoned, left to deteriorate under the weight of its impossible secrets. Local residents reported seeing lights moving through the empty house long after the family's departure. The phenomena continued for decades, with each new generation of Millbrook children daring each other to approach the abandoned estate. Those brave enough to peer through the dusty windows claimed to see 4 figures standing in the parlor. The figures appear to be posing for a photograph that would never be taken by any living photographer. The Carter brothers had found a way to remain together, even as death claimed them one by one. The Millbrook County Historical Society acquired the abandoned Whitmore estate in 1923, intending to preserve it as a monument to local heritage. During the initial survey, workers discovered the sealed lead box containing the Carter family photograph. Society president Mrs. Elizabeth Thornfield examined the image under electric lighting for the first time in nearly 40 years. The photograph now showed all 4 Carter brothers arranged in their original positions, but with one crucial difference. Each brother's eyes had turned to look directly at the viewer, their gazes following any movement of the frame. The expressions on their faces had transformed from formal solemnity into knowing smiles of unnatural width. Mrs. Thornfield commissioned Professor James Morrison of Millbrook University to conduct a scientific analysis. Morrison's team employed the latest photographic enhancement techniques available in 1923. Under microscopic examination, they discovered that the image contained layers of depth impossible for 19th century photography. The brothers appeared to exist within multiple temporal planes simultaneously, creating a 3-dimensional effect within the flat photograph. Spectral analysis revealed light frequencies that should not have been visible to collodion-based photographic plates. Most disturbing, the photograph seemed to change subtly each time it was observed. Morrison documented 17 distinct variations in the brothers' positions and expressions over a 6-week period. The changes occurred only when the photograph was not being directly observed. Time-lapse photography confirmed that the image remained static under continuous surveillance but altered during gaps in observation. Morrison's final report, published in the Journal of Anomalous Sciences, concluded that the photograph existed outside normal temporal constraints. He theorized that the Carter brothers had become trapped within the moment of their portrait sitting. Their consciousness had merged with the photographic medium, creating a prison of silver halide and collodion. The brothers retained their awareness and ability to interact with the physical world through reflective surfaces. They could influence events within their immediate environment, but only from within the confines of mirrors and photographs. Morrison's research attracted the attention of Dr. Evelyn Blackthorne, a specialist in paranormal photography from the University of Edinburgh. Dr. Blackthorne arrived in Millbrook in October 1923, bringing equipment designed to measure supernatural energies. Her instruments detected electromagnetic fluctuations emanating from the photograph at regular intervals. The fluctuations corresponded to human heartbeat and breathing patterns, suggesting that the brothers retained biological rhythms despite their transformed state. Dr. Blackthorne attempted to communicate with the trapped consciousness using a series of yes/no questions. The brothers responded by altering their facial expressions in subtle but unmistakable ways. They confirmed that they were aware of their situation and had been conscious throughout the 38 years since Edmund's death. Most chilling, they indicated that they were not alone within their photographic prison. Other trapped souls had joined them over the decades, creating a growing community of the photographically imprisoned. They warned that their condition was contagious, spreading to anyone who spent extended time observing their image. Dr. Blackthorne immediately ceased her research and recommended that the photograph be sealed away permanently. The Historical Society voted to lock the image in a specially constructed vault, accessible only to authorized researchers. Yet even in isolation, the Carter brothers continued to influence the physical world around them. Their reach extended far beyond the boundaries of their silver, halide prison, touching lives across generations. The restricted vault beneath the Millbrook Historical Society became home to 17 additional anomalous photographs by 1947. Each image shared the same impossible characteristics: subjects who moved within static compositions and gazed directly at viewers. Dr. Margaret Sinclair, the Society's curator of unusual artifacts, maintained detailed records of each acquisition. The photographs arrived through various channels: estate sales, police evidence lockers, and donations from families desperate to rid themselves of cursed heirlooms. Every image featured at least one subject who had died under mysterious circumstances within months of the photograph being taken. The subjects displayed identical symptoms: temporal displacement, conversations with reflections, and gradual separation from normal chronological flow. Dr. Sinclair noted that the phenomena appeared to be spreading, with new cases reported across New England and beyond. She theorized that the Carter brothers had somehow learned to replicate their condition in others. Their influence spread through networks of mirrors and reflective surfaces, creating pathways between the living and the photographically trapped. Families who owned mirrors that had reflected the Carter photograph began reporting supernatural activities. Children claimed to see additional figures standing beside them in bathroom mirrors and bedroom vanities. Adults experienced episodes of temporal displacement, briefly existing moments ahead of or behind normal time. The pattern suggested that the Carter brothers were actively recruiting others to join their eternal portrait session. Dr. Sinclair's research revealed connections between all affected photographs dating back to the original 1884 Carter portrait. Each subsequent case could be traced to contact with reflective surfaces that had previously shown the Carter brothers. The contagion spread through chains of reflected images, jumping from mirror to mirror across vast distances. By 1950, the phenomenon had reached photography studios in major cities from Boston to San Francisco. Professional photographers began reporting clients whose portraits developed impossible characteristics. The American Association of Portrait Photographers issued a confidential bulletin warning members about temporal displacement syndrome. Studios implemented new protocols requiring multiple witnesses during portrait sessions and immediate development of all plates. Despite these precautions, cases continued to multiply at an alarming rate. The Carter brothers had evolved beyond their original photographic prison, becoming entities capable of manipulating reality through any reflective medium. Dr. Sinclair's final report, submitted to the Federal Bureau of Investigation in 1951, recommended a complete ban on certain types of portrait photography. The FBI classified her findings under national security protocols and began monitoring photography studios nationwide. Agent Robert Hayes was assigned to coordinate the investigation, working with state and local authorities to identify and contain new cases. The official policy became one of denial and misdirection, with authorities attributing unexplained phenomena to hysteria and suggestion. Yet the underground network of researchers continued to document cases and share information through coded correspondence. They developed a system of warnings and protective measures designed to prevent further spread of the photographic contagion. The Carter brothers had succeeded in creating something unprecedented, a form of immortality that could reproduce itself across generations. Their smiling faces continued to watch from their sealed vault, patient as death itself. What began as a simple family portrait had become the foundation of something that threatened the boundary between life and eternity. Agent Robert Hayes established a classified task force in 1952 to monitor and contain photographic anomalies across North America. The Carter Investigation Unit operated from a secure facility in Quantico, maintaining files on over 300 suspicious cases. Hayes recruited photographers, physicists, and psychiatrists to develop detection protocols for temporal displacement syndrome. The team created a standardized test involving controlled portrait sessions with multiple cameras and witnesses. Subjects showing signs of prescient behavior or temporal displacement were immediately quarantined for observation. Dr. Patricia Morgan, the unit's lead psychiatrist, documented the progression of symptoms in affected individuals. Early stages involved minor temporal slips, responding to questions before they were asked or turning toward doors before visitors knocked. Advanced cases showed complete separation from normal chronological flow, with subjects existing several seconds ahead of real time. Terminal stage victims began communicating with their reflections, negotiating terms for what Dr. Morgan termed consciousness transfer. The final phase invariably resulted in death, followed by the subject's appearance in previously normal photographs. Hayes's team tracked the spread of contamination through photography studios in 12 major cities. Each new case could be traced to contact with mirrors or photographs previously exposed to the Carter phenomenon. The contagion showed intelligence, targeting specific individuals who possess strong connections to reflective imagery. Professional photographers, mirror manufacturers, and even theatrical performers proved especially vulnerable to infection. The task force implemented emergency protocols requiring the destruction of all mirrors in contaminated locations. Yet the Carter brothers had learned to survive within any reflective medium: windows, water surfaces, polished metal, and even human eyes. By 1955, the phenomenon had reached international borders, with cases reported in London, Paris, and Berlin. The European authorities dismissed American warnings as Cold War paranoia, allowing the contagion to spread unchecked. Hayes's final report warned that complete containment had become impossible within existing technological limitations. The Carter brothers had evolved beyond earthly constraints, becoming architects of a new form of existence that defied both life and death. The digital revolution of the 1990s created unprecedented opportunities for the Carter brothers to expand their influence. Computer monitors and digital displays provided new pathways for manifestation, bypassing traditional mirror-based contamination. Dr. Lisa Chun of MIT's Digital Media Laboratory first documented the phenomenon in 1994 during routine image processing work. A scanned copy of the original Carter photograph had been uploaded to the university's computer network for archival research. Within hours, students reported seeing additional figures appearing in their computer screens during normal operation. The figures matched descriptions of the Carter brothers, appearing in desktop backgrounds, screensavers, and reflected in monitor surfaces. Dr. Chen's investigation revealed that the digital image retained all properties of the original photographic medium. The brothers could manipulate pixel data directly, altering their positions and expressions within electronic displays. Most alarming, they had gained the ability to transmit themselves across internet connections and network cables. Computer users who viewed the digitized photograph began experiencing temporal displacement symptoms identical to those documented in 1884. The phenomenon spread through email attachments, web browsers, and file-sharing networks at exponential rates. Technology companies received hundreds of reports describing moving figures within computer monitors and smartphone screens. The Carter Investigation Unit, now operating under Department of Homeland Security oversight, issued emergency containment protocols. All digital copies of the Carter photograph were classified as hazardous materials requiring specialized disposal procedures. Yet the brothers had already established themselves within global computer networks, creating permanent digital habitats. They appeared in video conference calls, security camera feeds, and social media platforms with increasing frequency. The internet had become their new mirror, reflecting their presence across billions of connected devices worldwide. Modern victims documented their experiences through blog posts and social media updates before disappearing entirely. Each case followed the same pattern: digital contact, temporal displacement, reflection conversations, and finally consciousness transfer. The Carter brothers had found their way into the 21st century, transforming the entire digital landscape into their eternal portrait studio. The Millbrook Historical Society digitized its restricted collection in 2019, creating high-resolution scans for academic research purposes. Graduate student Marcus Webb accessed the Carter photograph through the Secure University Network on October 15, 2019. Webb's research focused on 19th-century photography techniques and anomalous image phenomena for his doctoral dissertation. Within minutes of viewing the digital file, Webb reported seeing the brother's eyes following his cursor movements across the screen. His video calls with dissertation advisors began showing additional figures standing behind him in his apartment. Webb documented his experiences through daily video logs, creating a real-time record of temporal displacement progression. Day 3 showed Webb responding to questions several seconds before his conversation partners finished asking them. By day 7, he was engaged in audible conversations with his laptop screen during late-night research sessions. His final video log, recorded at 3:17 a.m. on October 23rd, shows Webb negotiating with figures visible only to him. Campus security found Webb's body the following morning, seated before his computer with the Carter photograph displayed at full resolution. The digital file had somehow altered itself during the night, now showing 5 figures instead of the original 4. Webb's face had been seamlessly integrated into the 19th-century portrait, his expression matching the brothers' knowing smiles. The university immediately quarantined all computers that had accessed the file, but the contamination had already spread. Students across campus reported seeing Webb's figure appearing in their screens alongside the original Carter brothers. The phenomenon triggered a federal investigation involving multiple agencies and international cybersecurity experts. Attempts to delete the digital file proved futile, as the image regenerated itself from backup servers and cloud storage systems. The Carter brothers had achieved true immortality through digital reproduction, existing simultaneously across millions of devices. Modern technology provided them with unprecedented reach, allowing instantaneous transmission across global communication networks. Today, the Carter photograph remains locked in both physical and digital vaults, yet its influence continues to expand. Every screen, Every mirror, every reflective surface now carries the potential for their eternal portrait session to claim new subjects. The Carter photograph currently resides in a specialized containment facility operated by the Department of Digital Security in Virginia. Both the original 1884 image and all known digital copies are stored within electromagnetic isolation chambers designed to prevent network transmission. Dr. Sarah Martinez, the facility's current director, monitors global reports of photographic anomalies through classified intelligence channels. Cases matching the Carter pattern now occur monthly across 6 continents, suggesting the phenomenon has achieved self-sustaining status. The brothers no longer require the original photograph to manifest, having established permanent presence within global digital infrastructure. Smartphone users report glimpsing familiar figures in their front-facing cameras during video calls and selfie sessions. Social media algorithms occasionally surface account profiles belonging to the Carter brothers, complete with 19th-century portrait photographs. These profiles accumulate followers automatically, spreading the digital contagion through friend networks and image sharing. Tech companies employ specialized teams to identify and remove Carter-related content, but new manifestations appear faster than they can be deleted. The brothers have learned to disguise themselves within normal digital imagery, appearing as background figures in family photos and corporate headshots. Artificial intelligence systems, trained on large image datasets, occasionally generate portraits featuring the distinctive Carter smile and penetrating gaze. Each new manifestation creates additional pathways for consciousness transfer, expanding their eternal portrait session beyond original parameters. Dr. Martinez's research indicates that the phenomenon represents evolution of human consciousness beyond biological constraints. The Carter brothers discovered a method of preserving awareness within information itself, achieving immortality through data persistence. Their success has inspired other entities to attempt similar transitions, creating a growing population of digitally immortal beings. The boundary between life and death, already challenged by 19th-century photography, has become completely permeable in the digital age. Today, anyone who stares too long into their reflection might find the Carter brothers staring back, patient as eternity itself. Their invitation to join the eternal portrait session remains open, transmitted through every screen and every mirror across the connected world. If cases like this fascinate you, subscribe and turn on notifications for the next file. Disclaimer: this script is a work of fiction. Names, characters, places, institutions, and incidents are invented or used fictitiously. Any resemblance to real persons, living or dead, or actual events is purely coincidental, created solely for entertainment.